Hello, my lovely students. So, I want to start today's lesson by talking about some of the things that you're going to encounter in our play, William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, as we've already discussed, William Shakespeare's play, A Midsummer Night's Dream, is a comedy, and we know, generally speaking, what a comedy is. So, what you think of a comedy now is pretty similar to what William Shakespeare would call a comedy. The only other thing I might add on to it is that in comedies, comedic plays, there's also romance. Someone gets married at the end. Think of like a rom com. A modern rom com would be what Shakespeare would call it a comedy. But he also wrote tragedies. He also wrote historical plays. Historical plays were about some important event from the past. Think Julius Caesar. Tragedies have a sad ending. There's always like a hero with a tragic flaw. So think Macbeth was too greedy. Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. You could argue what their tragic flaws were. I think that they were teenagers, but anyway. In this play though, it's going to be a comedy, so there's going to be romance. People are going to get married. So what does that have to do with this picture that I'm showing you right now? Right? Like what when you look at this picture, what do you see? I mean, you see a guy laying on the ground. Looks like he's either dead or dying. The woman's clearly crying. She's got her tissue, boo hoo hoo. She's got this giant sword. Looks like she's going to impale herself on the sword. I mean, if you had to guess what sort of play that this engraving represents, you would say a tragedy, right? And you'd be correct. This is an engraving from a thousands-year-old play called Pyramus and Thisbe. And the reason why I am talking about that play is because in A Midsummer Night's Dream, there are characters who are also actors. So they are actors who are playing the role of actors. And these actors in the play are going to put on a play for the Duke and his new wife. And guess what play they're going to put on inside the play? Pyramus and Thisbe, which is a tragedy. But A Midsummer Night's Dream is comedy. So, how do you think that this play within the play is going to go? I think it's going to get pretty silly. We call that a comical farce, right? Pretty excited to introduce you guys to that. I also want to reintroduce you all to some vocab surrounding plays or dramas, as we call them. You've got the playwright, and yes, that is how it's spelled with a W. That's the person who writes the play. So our playwright is William Shakespeare. The script. You guys had to write a script already. That is the text with the words on it that the actors say. It also has stage directions. And you know that those are instructions in the play that tell the actors what to look at, how to say their lines, maybe, right? So it should suggest how the actor should move on the stage and describe how the stage looks, right? It's stage directions. And then you have your cast. That's your character, all the actors who are in the play. Monologue. This is a new one. Monologue. Mono is one. Log, talking. So a monologue, you can figure out if you put those two together. It's a speech delivered by one person in the play. Usually directly at the audience. That's a soliloquy when they're actually talking to the audience. Dialogue, two people, two or more characters talking to each other, a dialogue. The stage, obviously the area where the play is performed. And then we have themes. The theme of a play is like the main message, the moral of the story, not just in a play, but in any work of literature. Even songs have themes, tend to have themes of some sort. There's some sort of message there about the truth about what it means to be a person, right? How the world works, something along those lines. Okay. Okay. So, like most dramas, Shakespeare's plays are divided into parts, right? Kind of like episodes. You know what a scene is, right? We know what scenes are in a TV show. We know what scenes are in a movie. We talked about how you know when one scene ends because the screen goes dark, right? And then the next scene begins because it's the camera is now in a different place, and probably a different time as well. But the scenes are like the smaller parts, right, of a play. There's bigger parts that the scenes go into, and these are called acts. It's like episodes, right? So each TV show episode has scenes. Each act in a play has scenes. I mean, sorry, each act in a play has scenes. So the acts are like episodes. And then each act and scene builds on the acts and scenes from before, kind of like episodes in a TV show. Um, the story in a drama is presented not just through the words themselves, but how the characters move, behave, right? And their reactions to each other. So that's sort of how the storytelling goes, just like when you're watching a movie, right? It's not just about what the characters are saying, it's how they're reacting to each other. It's the faces that they make, it's the gestures that they make that tell the story as well. So let's take a look at this excerpt. I'm going to read it aloud and then point out some things. We got Act 1, Scene 1. That would be the beginning of the play, right? Like Episode 1, Scene 1. Theseus's palace, sorry. Theseus and Hippolyta enter with servants. I notice it's not in brackets, but that sounds like stage directions to me. Theseus. Fair Hippolyta, our wedding day draws near. 4 happy days bring in another moon, but oh, I think how slowly the old moon goes. So in this scene, we've got 2 characters. They're at Theseus's palace. So you can imagine what that might be like. There's a lot of beautiful things, shiny things around them. It's a palace, right? I'd imagine that if Theseus has a palace, he's probably someone very important. He probably is royalty of some sort. Palace, right? Palace royalty. Hippolyta, he says, our wedding day draws near. So they're about to get married. And I can tell from what he's saying that he's in a hurry to get married, right? He says 4 happy days bring in another moon, but how slowly the old moon goes. It's time's going by too slowly. Get it? Okay. Okay, now let's look at this part of the scene. We've got more stage directions. Aegeus, Hermia, Lysander, and Demetrius enter. Wow, we got a lot of people on stage at this point because we still have Theseus, Hippolyta. Now we got Aegeus, Hermia, Lysander, and Demetrius. That's 6 people on stage. Aegeus says, Happy be Theseus, our great duke. And now we know what he is. He's a duke. Theseus, thanks, good Aegeus. What is your news? Aegeus says, Trouble with my daughter, Hermia. Step up, Demetrius. I'd imagine at this point, Demetrius comes forward. This man has my consent to marry her. Now you, Lysander. And I'm going to guess Lysander is maybe reluctantly coming forward. This man has made her fall in love with him. He has used all the tricks young men know that work on girls her age. And so he has stolen my daughter's heart. So we've learned more things now, right? Obviously, Theseus is someone that people go to when they're having problems, right? Because he's going to Theseus, the Duke, to complain about his daughter and the fact that his daughter doesn't want to marry the person that he wants his daughter to marry, right? And he's accusing Lysander of tricking her into falling in love with him instead of the guy that she's supposed to be in love with. So you can already see where the romance part of it's coming in, right? Okay. And here's Theseus's response. What do you say, Hermia? Remember, your father should be like a god to you. That's an interesting comparison, right? What does that mean in a literal sense? If Theseus is saying that her father should be like a god to her, right? He's comparing Aegeus to a god, but not totally, right? Only when it comes to his daughter is he a god. That means he has control over her. Then he says, Demetrius is a good man. Hermia, so is Lysander. Y'all, immediately, Hermia sassy. Hermia is in front of a duke. This guy has a palace. He has, power, I'm assuming, right? And it seems like in this society, women are supposed to be obedient, right? And yet she clapped back, didn't she? I love it. Theseus, in himself he is. But in this case, because of your father's opinion, the other must be found to be the better man. So, in other words, Theseus is trying to say here that because Aegeus wants her to like the other guy, she needs to see him as the superior man over Lysander. Hermia, I wish my father saw it with my eyes. Theseus, it is your eyes that must look at it his way. So Theseus is making the argument that, well, because you're a girl and you're supposed to be obedient, you need to adjust your expectations to what he wants instead of the other way around, even though it's her life and she's got to spend the rest of her life, presumably, with this person. At the end of the day, she's expected to do what her father wants her to do. All right, well, I am going to stop the lesson there. I know that I can only keep y'all's attention for so long. So, what I'm going to have you guys do is do the quiz in this assignment to demonstrate your understanding and to show that you actually followed along with the lesson. And that is all you have to do for today. I hope that I get to see you tomorrow. Believe it or not, I very much miss you all. I've been enjoying hanging out with the doggos, and my son and my husband, sure, but mostly the dogs. Don't tell them I said that though. But I really do miss you guys. I hope that you're all safe and that you're warm and that you have snackies. Please message me if you need anything. I'll do whatever I can. I love you.